Hello, welcome to How to Become TV. My name's Jace. This is how wannabe coders become pro. Hello everyone, this is the second time I'm using Wirecast. I believe I have some of the kinks, or most of the kinks ironed out. I know there's at least some watching live right now. If you could just give me a shout in the comments and tell me that you can hear me and see me, I would be grateful. There should be no echo, but you should be able to hear me. Just give me a shout out if you hear that. Or if you're not hearing anything, tell me you're not hearing anything. Okay? So while I'm waiting for who's ever watching to respond, because I know I can see you're watching, let's just go on to all the questions. We got a lot of questions the past couple days. So we wanted to go into that. Basically, a lot of the questions just really revolved around free or very, very cheap tutorials for C#, Python, and .NET kind of stuff. So there's a lot that I've found, and some of these things are just from basic searches that I've done, but a lot of them are from instructors that I've actually interviewed myself, or I've interviewed alumni from students who have actually taken those courses. Okay, so let's get to it. So from Julio, Julio and I chatted on Google Plus for a while. He had some questions about where to get help from C#. So no, that wasn't Julio. So that was Peter. Peter from Nigeria. I'm sorry, I'll change that in the notes there, Peter. In the show notes, you can see below there's a bunch of links to free resources that I've shared that I think are really good. So one is just some free YouTube tutorials. Then there's freeprogramresources.com, and that covers a question that came about basic assembly languages. So there's multiple assembly languages, but he was talking about how to learn basic assembly. So this is coming from a student that no, that is Julio for that question, sorry. So Julio is taking computer science engineering right now, and he's been given the opportunity to learn basic assembly. So what basic assembly is, for those of you who don't know, it is a low-level language made by IBM for IBM's mainframe computers. So yes, you guessed it, it's a very old language. And no, you wouldn't be using it today in the real world in most cases, but there's tremendous value from learning a low-level language like this, because in the time that these things were popular, it was extremely important that programmers knew how to economize the power usage, battery life, memory allocation, and so these languages, not unlike more modern languages that can afford to be total cows on resources, low-level languages like basic assembly needed to be extremely careful about how many resources they were using. So there's a link to more stuff on there about basic assembly and how important it is and how valuable it can be to learn. Okay, so if you are in university, and it's really just an opportunity to learn how to learn to program. So there's some value in that. He asked me, should I take it at all? I said, yeah, absolutely. If you're university, it's just a broader foundation. It's a great idea. Okay, so there's 3 links there about basic assembly in particular, for IBM's basic assembly. Okay, so then there were some questions about C#. I got these links mixed up a little bit, but you can see there's links there for C#, and again, these are all free. And the last link there on C# also covers or has a lot of different tuts on .NET languages and .NET tutorials in general. Okay, and then last week, Icy Cool ×2 had some great questions regarding Python, and I didn't have the best resources for that at the time. So Icy Cool, there's 3 for you right there. Okay, and give me a sec here. Well, there's people watching. I hope you guys can hear me. Tell me if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right. So, and then there's a couple other things I want to talk about, and this came to .NET developers, anyone in the .NET family, okay? So lots of questions came up about people who are studying it in university right now and just need extra help. And they're looking they don't have a lot of budget, so they're looking for free stuff. And so I found some resources there. You can see it in the links below. But in the bottom there's a user group for .NET developers. And there's more than one, but this is one here in the Bay Area. If you go to baynetug.org, the link is below there. And this is where .NET developers can get together and just kind of collaborate, help each other out, socialize, because, you know, sitting behind a computer pounding out code can get lonely. But it's a really informal, cheap, free way to get, you know, to get help and kind of mentorship in an informal way. So check that out. And there are user groups in your local area for .NET. I mean, .NET's massive, right? It's not very sexy and popular, but there's so many user groups out there. So search your local area and find a user group that kind of suits your needs, okay? And then some of my favorite YouTube tutorial resources. One is Dev HQ Lessons, and the link is below. His name is Joe Savage. Joe is great. I've interviewed him already. It's in the bank to be edited, but he's great. He's in high school, and he's taught himself all this stuff on his own. So for all you hardcore guys who love to teach yourself in your basement by yourself, follow his stuff. He's really, really good. He's young, and he knows what he's talking about. The next one is The New Boston, and for those of you who watch these types of videos on YouTube, you're probably familiar with The New Boston. He has other videos that are completely unrelated to technology, but he has a lot of really high quality, very popular, free tutorial videos on YouTube. So you really should check that out. So questions. No questions. We had like 23 questions last week. Nothing yet. Unless, of course, you guys can hear me, and then that's not working. I'm going to assume the dashboard on YouTube tells me that everything is going fine, so I'm going to go with that. This is going to be a really short live chat if I don't get any more questions. I just answered all the questions that were in G+. I answered last week's questions. They're all in the links below. Just something, I chatted with Peter today from Nigeria. He's a computer science engineering student, I think in his second year right now. And he had some questions that I think have come up a lot, and I just wanted to bring up here because I'm sure if he has this question, many of you have it. And that's just, you know, he just wants to know where he can be a .NET developer and have the freedom to kind of do what he loves, and he wants to leave Nigeria. I mean, he wants to travel out of his home country and go somewhere where there's going to be a lot more work. And but it was clear when I asked Peter some basic questions like, what do you really want to do? I mean, what kind of excites you? It was hard for him to answer that question. He said, I'm a database applications developer. That's what I want to be. And I'm like, okay, so this like really gets your goat. You like this kind of stuff, right? Like the most popular video I have is with Fernando, and Fernando does databases and he loves it. Like he really gets excited about it. He can talk about it all day long, right? So, but when I asked Peter that, he was kind of like, home hot. So all of us need to be able to answer some basic questions like, what is worth sacrificing for? I talked about this last week. Because whatever kind of avenue you go down, it's going to be painful. So choose something that is rewarding enough to make it through the slog, because there's going to be a long time where you're working really hard without any foreseeable rewards, and the work itself needs to be a reward. So answer those best questions. What do you want? What's worth sacrificing for? And once I know what I want, what's the quickest path there? It may not be a 4-year degree, it may not be a master's, but maybe it is. I mean, there's we interviewed James Wu, Dr. James Wu, a couple weeks ago. He's a user interface designer, UX designer, and he works for Kobo, and he went all the way to his PhD in his niche. And that helped him do what he wants to do. Now, not everyone needs to get their PhD in UX design to do what he wants to do. But for him, that was his path. And he had the time, he had the money, no issue, right? but there's so many people who need to get work now. They need to learn X number of skills. They don't need to learn everything, but they need to learn something in a few months and get work. And that's really where Hacker Schools comes in. And so the book is How to Become Zuck is I'm working on it every day. It's a lot of work, but it's a process of booking these interviews and then transcribing the interviews for a Kindle, and then editing the videos for the iBooks enhanced book version. So any suggestions and requests that you have, because I really want to make something that helps you and that you want. And what I have access to is all these great developers, great CEOs of startup tech companies. We spoke with Facebookers, Googlers, Tumblers, people from Sony that hire developers all the time. So what do you want to know from them? I get a lot of the same questions, and I'm answering them over and over again. But there's got to be other questions out there. I'm answering, what's the best language to learn? Where's free tutorials for this and this and this? So I'm doing my very best to answer those questions. New questions. Tell me what your questions are. Okay? All right, guys. So it's a 10, 11-minute chat. It's pretty short. But if you have any other questions, let me know. I have an interview booked with Heather Payne of Hacker U. It's a hacker school here in Toronto. She just wasn't able to come tonight. She's stupid busy. But I will keep tracking her down. And she also started ladiesthatcode.com. And it's all for women coders. And I know there's like 20% of my audience out there are women who want to learn to code too. So it's some great stuff. Okay? If there's no more questions, you can also use the hashtag Become a Developer on Twitter, Google+. You can find us on Facebook, How to Become TV. Pretty easy to find. Take care, guys. I shall see you next week, and I'll have more updates on the book. Take care. Bye-bye.